In you and me, I can do nothing can stand in my way. Move mountains. I can do anything. Yes, I can.
Friends, and thank you for tuning in tonight for our Sunday night chat. Do me a favor, if you're not on your phone, go ahead and text someone or call someone and let them know that it's time to tune in. If you're on your phone, do me a favor and go ahead and push share. If you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, wherever you are, subscribe so that you can stay notified on any time that I'm here bringing you content. I want to thank you for your support and how you've always been generous in sharing and letting everyone know what goes down on Sunday nights. Tonight is no different. The quality is no different. I have a great conversation. But before we get to that conversation, I want to make sure that you're following me on all social media platforms, that you're following me everywhere, whether it be Twitter or YouTube or Instagram, or make sure you're following me online. There's some great things that are coming up, and I don't want you to miss any of it at all. Also, if you haven't gotten my single yet, you need to make sure you see it. If you haven't got my children's book, why am I telling you all this stuff? Because I want to make sure that you're connected on all levels. And while you're sitting at home, you're saying, I don't have anything to read to my child. Get What If. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Not because I wrote it, but it's a great book of inspiring your child to believe and to dream and to look at every obstacle, as we are currently in a season of obstacles that are before us, looking as an opportunity to grow. I do want to take this opportunity to thank all of our first responders. I want to thank all of the people who are on the front lines, who are doing everything that they can to make sure that we are safe. While many of us might be, whether working from home or those of you who are parenting at home, those of you who are in a season that you're might be in between jobs or whatever, I want you to be encouraged, and I want you to know that I personally am praying for you. Not just me, but many people are praying for you. And we thank you, all the first responders and people that are out there that are putting yourselves in harm's way. We're covering you and we're lifting you up, and we want to applaud you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Many of us are in a season where we are adjusting and we're learning things that we didn't know that we would need to learn, or being reminded of things that we didn't need to forget. It's not just a season of challenge, but it's a season of learning, and we're embracing it, and we are doing everything we can. And that's why this conversation is important tonight, because I get to talk to Miss Angie Thomas. I've known Angie for many years because when I was living in Mississippi, I got the opportunity to meet her way before any of this happened, as far as her being noted nationally. She's a wonderful person. I can't wait for you to hear the conversation that I have. So go ahead, if you haven't texted someone or if you haven't shared it, go ahead and share it right now, because I don't want you to miss tonight's conversation with Miss Angie Thomas. Let's go ahead. Let's get into the interview. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And I am so honored that I have a friend of mine tonight. It's Angie Thomas. If you don't know Angie, there's something wrong with you, or you have, for some reason, not been familiar with any reading of any kind. Well, even if you're not a reader, that means you don't go to the movies, and that means you need to get out of church and actually go see some things. So I want to introduce tonight Miss Angie Thomas. So I'm so happy that you're here tonight. How are you tonight, Angie?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
I am really, really good. We can't always see each other physically right now because of the limitations that the government and the state has put on us, but we can always connect virtually. So I'm so happy that we can do this. What a lot of people don't know that you and I met in Mississippi. M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I in Mississippi and the good old dirty South. And we have connected for many years since then. But I want to talk about that, how when I met you, you were serving in a church there and serving in a particular role. And I wanted to see, because of course now we know the other side as far as the different things that we'll get to as far as what you've done as it relates to literature and to the film and all that stuff and how you made your debut. But I want to know, based on you starting in church, and you haven't left the church or any of that type of stuff, but when I say left the church, I'm talking about the faith. How did you, or was this writer always in you, or was there somebody that you were exposed to that caused you to look and say, hey, I want to do something different than what I see?
Mhm. I've been telling stories for as long as I can remember. Like, if you ask my mom, she would tell you when I was a little girl, if I didn't like the way a bedtime story ended, I would tell my own version. So storytelling was just always a big part of me. And growing up, being in Mississippi, being from a place that's so known for writers, for some reason, it didn't click with me that a little black girl in the hood in Jackson could be a writer like these other great writers were from here. So it wasn't until I got to college that I really decided, maybe this is something worth doing. Maybe this is something I can do. But storytelling has just been a part of me. And I can remember even being a little kid and having dreams of me signing books. And at the time, I didn't understand what that dream was. And you know how they say, God will give you a vision and make it plain. And he was giving me the vision even at a young age, showing me what I would be, who I would become. So, but it took a while for me to recognize that vision. So it's always been there. That yearning to tell stories has always been there. It just took me a while to get on board with it.
So did you write different stories when you were younger?
I did. I did. I wrote, like, when I was in third grade, I would write stories, and my teacher would allow me to read them to my classmates. And then, but as I got a little older, when I became a teenager, I kind of got away from it. I started to hate reading, and I realized it's because I could not connect with a lot of books at that time that were aimed at my age range, like the popular books. I just couldn't connect with them. I wasn't seeing a lot of books about young black girls. And so when you don't see it, you don't believe that you can do it or that it's possible to tell those stories. But when I was a teenager, I turned to rapping instead. I was a rapper for a little while.
Come on, did you record? Do we have anything that's recorded that we
I
can hear?
did. I did a demo and everything, but it
Can you
never
still
got
spit
far.
some bars?
I'm retired. I'm retired. The closest I
Just
got.
didn't know if anything was gonna come out in you or
Oh,
something.
no, no,
It's
no.
still in you.
So see, that's what ended up inspiring my second book, which is about a rapper. So I was
Yeah,
like, this is as close as I'm gonna get to doing it again.
yeah.
But it was a way to tell stories at the time, and I didn't even recognize then what being a storyteller, how much it was a part of me. Because even as a rapper, that's all I wanted to do was tell stories through my raps. So it was all of those different things, honestly, that eventually led me to being the writer that I am now. Because had I not become a rapper, I wouldn't have gotten the guts to write the kind of stories that I write. Had I not been encouraged by my third grade teacher to write stories for my classmates, I wouldn't be encouraged now to write for young people. So all of those things end up being a part of the journey.
So who were your early encouragers, or and I'm not talking about physical people, like literature, like the different things that you wrote? Like what are the things that books that you were like, this author, I can see myself, or I aspired to be like that particular author?
Yeah, all the greats. When I say the greats, I mean black greats like Dr. Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, Toni Morrison, all of them. Also in children's literature, there was Walter Dean Myers, Jacqueline Woodson, and also too rappers inspired me a lot.
Yeah,
you
even though
know,
you won't spit nothing, but
no,
yeah.
I won't stick because I know my limits.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know. I know. Well, let me ask you, and the reason that I started where I did as it relates to faith is even though that was a dream of yours, and I say that because a lot of people have dreams and they have things that they saw, and somewhere something gripped them that caused them not to do it. Whether that was a conversation, whether that was the limited resources, whether that was their own inhibitions or someone saying they could, or sometimes just limited perspective or seeing. I've never seen it,
Mhm.
so it's hard for me to go in a direction that I never seen, even though I believe it. I just never seen that. So even though there was a dreamer in you and always still yet there because
Yeah.
you're not finished,
Right.
what was it that pushed you to constantly say, I knew not only that I know I was going to do this, but I just had to keep going after it.
Mhm. A couple of things. One, my mom, huge supporter, biggest influence. But for me personally, what kept me going was knowing that I may not see it physically, but if I can see it in here, that means it's possible. And that's what we have to remind ourselves as people of faith. When we see something, when we can imagine something, when we can envision something, when we can envision ourselves in this position or as this person or fulfilling this dream, that means it is possible. It didn't matter what was around me. It didn't matter what was happening around me. I'm from Georgetown in Jackson. I'm from the roughest neighborhoods in Jackson. I was hearing gunshots at night when I was a kid. I was not seeing authors. But what got me through it and what kept me going was that feeling deep down inside that this is what God has put in me. And when I leave this earth, I don't want to go before him and tell him, I'm sorry I didn't make what you want for me to happen. I don't want to go to him with regrets. I don't want to be a disappointment. Whatever it is he put in me, he put it in me for a reason. Whatever it is he puts in us, he puts it us in us for a reason. He wants us to fulfill it. But he gives us choices. And the thing is, we can decide whether or not we're gonna go after that dream or not. I don't want to leave here as a person with regret. So that's what kept me going. That's what made me go for it and say, you know what? If you gave this to me, there's a reason you want me to do it. And I see that now every day. The thing about dreams too, and that I'm realizing is if your dream is only going to be a blessing to you, you're limiting yourself.
Mhm.
That's not a dream. That's a hope. That's a goal.
That
Uh,
that is that is tweetable. That is tweetable there. That if your dream is only for you, then say it again. Whatever. If your dream is only for you,
if your dream is only for you, it's not a dream, it's a
no,
goal.
it's a goal. That's just. First of all, I had chills like probably 2 minutes ago when you were talking. I was trying to hold on to that, but then you dropped something else. So you are truly an author because you just dropped stuff. You don't spit bars anymore; they spit words. And I'll be like, hold on, wait a minute, because the whole thing of you don't want to leave this earth not doing what you're supposed to do. And I mean, I don't want to stay on that, but there are so many people that are listening that really they say that,
Hmm.
but they don't put the action towards that. There's like when you said you were raised hearing gunshots and stuff. There are other people who are listening right now who've heard the same or who have been around the same. And I think
Hmm.
there's some saying that I'm not going to quote right. So excuse me, author, for not giving someone the right whatever I'm getting ready to say. But my heart means well when they say that one person grew up without, and they say because I grew without, that's why I didn't become. Then
Hmm.
another person said, because I didn't have or I grew without, that's why I did become. So
Hmm.
there had to be some type of mentality in you that has caused you to be as focused as you have been, and to be able to say that even with that last phrase or statement you just said about the whole dream thing, it's just a goal if it's just for you. And I applaud that, but I think that it's do you think I'm trying to move past that. Do you think you just naturally have always been like that, or you are raised to be like that? Because that I'm trying to get to that core part. Like you are like that right now, naturally. Like it's just coming out.
Right.
Like I could just write a book based on what you just said. It wouldn't be, yeah, whatever. But but it came from somewhere. Like that seed was planted in you from something and somewhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was my mom. That was my mom. Thing my mom would do, and I still remember this when I was a little girl. We couldn't go places, we couldn't travel. My mom would put me in the car though, and she would take me to the nice areas in town just to look around at the houses. If there was an open house, we'd go to the open house and we'd sit in the open house and have lunch. Just so we could see things. And the funny thing about it is, one of the neighborhoods we used to drive through all the time when I was younger, that's where I live now
Mm.
because that seed was planted in me to know it was possible. But also growing up in the church, and hearing the word puts it there too. But even Christians, we say we have faith, but for some reason we put limits on God.
Yeah, because
And
that's what I was going to say when you said
yes,
even grow up in church help, because there's somebody else who grew up in church and it didn't help them at all.
oh yeah,
So,
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. It's and we have to stop putting limits on God. That's what I've realized a lot of people do. Like some people will say, well, if he just gives me what I need, I'll be okay. But why not say, Lord, bless me so that I can be a blessing to others? That's what dreams are about. When I was sitting down writing The Hate You Give, I remember one of the prayers I said, Lord, help me so this isn't just a blessing to me, it's a blessing to others. And I saw that fulfilled when they were filming the movie and we had hundreds of people employed because I sat down at a computer and said that prayer. Like I met a man on that was working on the set and he pulled me aside and he was like, this movie project came right on time for me. I'm about to lose my house and I'm getting my first check from this film and that's going to help me keep my house. And that was confirmation for me that that prayer that I said all that those years ago had finally come to pass. And
so,
so, yeah.
so we're going to get to this movie because I want to talk about it. I do. What made you, I mean, it's natural. These questions, I mean, first of all, your answers are natural, but because it's been in you, it's ingrained in you. What made you make the leap, do the leap from what was safe to what was not known? Because, like I said, when I left Mississippi, well, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's around the time I left. It wasn't, I left in 2014. Um, I think it was not long after that you made the leap to say, you know what? Because I remember like the last email we had is somewhere and it says, hey, this is probably the last time we email like this because I'm getting ready to jump out and I'm getting ready to start working on this book or whatever. And I was like, that's great. Now, my little churchy self, I was thinking she's scared to come out with 5 ways to be blessed in Mississippi, 10 ways to be able to shake a tail feather and say, Jesus, I love you. I didn't know what she was going to do. So I was just like, she's scared to write something that's scared to bless the people of God, And then I didn't hear anything else from you. And then the next thing I hear, I said, wait a southern minute. I said, this girl that came out and written a secular book for the heathen. Now, just wait. Just wait. But what is it that caused you to make that leap that said, this is as far as I can go like this? And it does. And that leap for many people, it doesn't mean that where you were was bad. It doesn't mean that at all. Because some people think, well, I left it to better. It just means that's what you were called to do. So what sparked that, you like, all right, this is as far as I can go like this. It's time for me to do this.
Asking myself, why not? And asking myself 5, 10 years from now, do I want to say, I wish I would have done it? I don't want to have regrets about it. I think that's a big thing for me is asking myself, is this something that I would have said? There are 2 ways things can go. It could either happen in such a way that at the end you're like, well, at least I tried. Or at the end you're like, well, I wish I would have tried.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'd rather say, at least I tried. And
Yes.
and it was scary writing that book. It was scary writing about a subject like police brutality and racism. And especially as somebody who was literally coming from the church. I wrote part of that book while sitting at my desk at church, But
You weren't listening. Jesus. Y'all don't hear that. Y'all people, y'all listen to your preachers, listen to the word. Y'all pay attention. Don't y'all be like Angie.
don't be like me. No, I wrote it at work.
You might actually be a national best-selling author, and we don't want you to be that. We want you to be in the choir, sing for Women's Day. That's what we want you to do.
You listen to him. But No, it was scary. It was really scary. And even leaving my job once I got my book contract and deciding to put all of my efforts into that, it was scary. But it felt at the time like the right thing to do, and it felt ordained. And that's when I had to put fear aside because so many things have fallen into place and worked out perfectly that I had to recognize that there was a greater work being done than anything I had any control over. So I referenced this dream to people a lot that I had, like right before all this stuff started happening. I had a dream one night of Stevie Wonder on a motorcycle in the rain.
Oh,
And I was like, what in the world? And he was not holding the bars on the motorcycle. And and in the dream, it's like I heard a voice say, be Stevie on that motorcycle. So what does that mean? Stevie can't see. Stevie's blind. That means having blind faith, letting go, and going along for the ride, even when it feels like it's not right. Even when it's raining and it's pouring, that means letting go, being blind, and going along for the ride. And that's what I decided to do. So that dream,
and give this girl offer right now. The door of the church is opened. Is there anyone who has blind faith right now? Anyone ready to take the glasses off and trust God? Anybody? Come
yes,
on.
yes. That dream,
That is me.
that dream is what gave me the push. So that's how I go through my life now. I say I'm going to be Stevie Wonder on a motorcycle.
Wonderful. So the process from writing the book to even getting a contract to get it out to major distributors, what was that like? How hard was that? How long did that take just to get it from an
Yeah.
idea, get it copywritten, get all that type of stuff to where it landed? How did that go?
Well, my publisher is HarperCollins, and HarperCollins is what's considered one of the big traditional publishers. So, there are like five major publishers based out of New York City. But in order for them to even look at your work and consider publishing your work, you have to have a literary agent. I got my literary agent through Twitter, of all places. I was his literary agency was having a question and answer session on Twitter, and I was actually at work at my old job at the church at my desk, and I'm looking on Twitter, and I've been writing The Hate You Give, but I was afraid to send it to agents because of the subject matter. And I'm talking about teenagers, and we're talking about racism. I'm not sure if this is something anybody would even want to publish. And I decided, you know what? Just ask if this is even an appropriate topic for a book. So I asked in the Q&A, I said, is it appropriate to talk about things like Black Lives Matter in a novel for teenagers? And this one agent replied, and he was like, yeah, I'd actually like to read it. So I sent it to him about a month or so later after I finished writing it. I sent it to him, and he loved it, and he signed me as a client. And we worked on it a little bit more. He helped me edit it a little bit, and then he sent it to the publishers, and 13 U.S. publishers fought for the rights to that book. We had a 13 house auction, and it was like they were all making offers, and they were trying to one up each other on their offer. It was the most mind blowing thing that had ever happened to me at that point. And so I went from hoping that somebody would choose me to being the one who made the choice.
Yeah, and not your third book, your
No,
first book.
my first one. My
First book.
first one, yes. And
Wow.
so I decided to go with HarperCollins, and news of the auction and the fact that all these publishers were fighting for this first time author, it kind of made, it kind of got around in little circles or whatever, and it made its way to Hollywood. And all of a sudden, movie producers and film studios are calling my agent like, we are interested in this. Can we take a read? Blah, blah, blah. And suddenly all of these different producers and studios wanted to make it into a movie. So it happened just like that. It was
Start tonight. Don't you start. It's wonderful. It is. I don't even now fast forward to what you were saying about the person who was on set who said this came at the right time.
Mhm.
People fighting over you made it accessible for you to fight for somebody else and provide for somebody else. And that
Yeah.
goes back to the prayer that you prayed that I would be able to bless somebody else. So, so you've gone from that. The movie was great. We've seen it. Those people who haven't read it, shame on you. But because the book is never like the movie's never like the book. So go
Right.
back and read it, people. But on the come up, you did that. Now you have the book. Now that's even for those who are finding their voice. And then you made an announcement recently that you're getting ready to come out with another book that I won't press the envelope on that. But you're constantly trying to find ways to not just tell a story, but to tell other people's stories, as well as to now with this last one, even people helping people find their voice to writing their truth. How do you feel like helping people find their truth is your core? That everything is coming, everything, like everyone has a thing, whether they be singers, art, whatever they do, there's a core thing that is centered around all of it. Do you feel like truth, or people finding their truth, living their truth, reaching for their truth, embracing their truth is your core thing?
Yeah, that and finding their voices. So many people are afraid to speak up and speak out, even in the church, especially in the church. People are afraid to speak up and speak out. People are afraid to address things that make them uncomfortable. But as a Christian, I think it's my job to address things that make others uncomfortable. It's my job to get uncomfortable. You know, when Jesus was on that cross, he wasn't comfortable. So why should I be? You know, why should I be in the work that he wants me to do? So for me, I want my legacy to be that young people found their voices, found their truths, and weren't afraid to speak up and speak out about injustice and to change things in their community and recognize that they can be the change that they want to see. And I want one day, you know, some politician to say, I read Angie Thomas's books and they really changed my perspective. That for me, that'll be it, you know. But I think in whatever you do, whatever dream you have, it kind of goes back to that blessing others. If you're also not inspiring the generation coming up behind you, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You can't limit it. You can't limit it to just you. You can't be selfish with your dream. If you're not inspiring other people, then what are you doing? So I'm trying to do for others what people have done for me and what they're continuing to do for me now. You know, having somebody like I met Tyler Perry and he loved the books and stuff like that and invited me to his studio opening and told me, you ever need some advice, I'm here. I will mentor you. And having that, I'm like, well, I got to pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's for me. That's what it's all about: empowering young people and helping them find their voices, so that I'm not their voice. I'm their megaphone. I never want to be their voice. I just want to be their megaphone.
Yeah. Let me ask this, because when your position has changed from someone on the come up to you are up, you know, to the standpoint, you know, like you're not a struggling writer, you're not a aspiring person.
Right.
You are now the one who will be presenting awards to, or presenting things to those who are aspiring. You know, even though it's their third book, but you started, you came out the stuff. You came out the gate ready. So everybody was fighting. They're like, who wants it? Better up, better. Everybody going to be. So how has that immediate, even though it may have been a long time of immediate, it took a long time, a long night to get there, but how did that change your circles, change your accessibility, your relationships with people? Because even some people do have a great support system. There are some people who have had the same friends they've had since high school and they've never changed or whatever. How has that been for you with making sure that people around you are either supporting you, are part of your support group, they're part of your people you bounce ideas off of, and that everybody's not saying, "Oh, hey, Angie, you remember me? You remember we went to Sunday school together, don't you? Hey, how has that been for you to discern in a way, those things?
Yeah,
And
that's
even in the industry, how's that been?
that's definitely taking growth and praying for discernment and being able to pick up on people who genuinely are there for me and genuinely are supportive, versus people who just want something from me. And it's heartbreaking at times when there are people in your life you suddenly realize, wait, you're not pouring into me, you're trying to take from me. And if there's not a balance there of a little of both, then I need to cut and let go. But it's been liberating in a way too. One thing I'm praying to God a little bit more of is help me say no more, because I can
Maybe you
be.
should write that. Isn't it Shonda Rhimes came out with the book The Year of Yes? Maybe you should write The Year of No.
Yeah,
Maybe you should write.
but I got to get to the point where I can do it before I can write about it.
I know, I
Yeah,
know, I know.
but but
Yeah.
but God has a way of helping you weed the wrong people out of your life. And I'm thankful that I'm surrounded by people who genuinely care about me, and who protect me from myself at times,
Yeah,
and that's
very good.
that's key. So I'm thankful too for even showing me, when God has shown me that it's time to move on, it's time to step away, and that's okay at times. I think sometimes we fear change, we fear walking away from people, but sometimes it's okay to protect ourselves, and it's okay to look out for ourselves a little bit more. So I'm learning to do that day by day. But thankfully, my cousins hadn't been in my pockets or nothing like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just wondered, because you go from a known name to everybody knows your name. You're a household name in many areas, and that to whom much is given, much is required,
Yeah.
really. And so you walk in a room, you're an automatic poster. You are the Twitter handler. You are it's no longer let me, and a lot of us strive for that. Walk into a room where you don't have to introduce yourself, and it takes some people longer, to do that. And that's not, and I'm saying that from the standpoint of, and only got a few more minutes, but there are a lot of us when it comes to the faith community where we sometimes do it in service. It's my opinion, and y'all don't cut me off for saying this, but I feel like we do a disservice to people because we often teach people how to be great church attenders or great servants in the building, great people. When we say do outreach, it's always tied to the local church or whatever, but we don't oftentimes teach people, how do I take my faith into the darkness or into
Mhm.
Paramount or into Universal Studios? How do I do that? So we know how to be saved in the church, and saved, and we know how to clap our hands, and it's given time. We know how to do that.
Yeah.
But how do you, we don't oftentimes teach people how to be saved or have your faith in the marketplace, how to be sitting beside Kevin Spacey or Tyler Perry or Oprah or and be solid, be the same Angie you were in Mississippi as you are at the grand opening, and that
Right.
I feel like we should do a better job of that. What would you say to that? That was kind of loaded. I went on a tangent for a second, but how would you even, do you feel that way, or I don't know? It's just my thoughts.
Oh yeah, yeah. I definitely have. I've definitely wondered about that, and felt that way too. But being even in the industry that I am, you have so many people from so many different backgrounds, and so many different religious beliefs or no belief at all. You have people so many, just so many different backgrounds. Period. And the thing is, for me, I never go into a space saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go in here and turn everybody into a Christian." No, for me, my discipleship looks like acting like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And the unfortunate thing about the world we're in right now, Christians don't look good. Not to the majority. Christians don't look good. We look judgmental. We look this. We look that. We don't have a good look right now. And what I want to do is I want to represent the Jesus that I know, and the Jesus I know is loving. The Jesus that I know is kind. The Jesus that I know, is love. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way of putting it. So I've had people tell me, just and I just talking to you and stuff like that, you make Jesus seem all right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I,
it's good when you can present Jesus and package him in ways that don't. I mean, it's some people like, well, you ashamed of him. No,
I
you have to. How do you sit down with an atheist
hmm
or an agnostic or a non, with like a nuns or whatever who don't believe in anything and still represent the love of Christ, still represent it without having to say it or having to say, "Have you seen my pastor?" None of that type of stuff. But to do that, and I think that what you're doing. I think it's an untapped conversation and a bigger conversation that needs to be had that we don't have the time to talk about it, but I do think that you're doing a great job of doing that. So I don't want to stay on there forever because I will get on something and I'll ride that thing. I'll ride it forever. But I want to do two more things and then I'll let you go. One, I want to talk about Belhaven for a second because you did go to Belhaven and you also have a scholarship that I don't know if it's already been given out or whatever. And then I know it's annual, but the Angie Thomas Belhaven Writer Scholarship is for those who of course, are obviously aspiring writers. So I want to see, did they reach out to you for that? Is that something you said, once again, I want to give back, to the place that I went?
it was actually a prayer of mine, and they ended up reaching out to me about it first. And the president called me, set up a meeting with me. I went to his office, brought my mama, and he told me, he said, we want to do this scholarship. No, what he first said was, I looked over your financial records from when you were a student here,
Mm-hmm.
and you shouldn't have had to struggle the way you did. We should have been helping you more. And I was like, wow, that brought me to tears. He said it shouldn't have been that way. So we want to make sure that the next Angie Thomas doesn't have that struggle, and we want to do this in your honor. So they're doing a full 4-year scholarship, including room, board, tuition, books, everything. And that for me, that's once again my dream blessing somebody else. That's an honor. Just I'm very thankful for it. So if there are young writers out there who want to study creative writing, Belhaven has an awesome program, and this scholarship is an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, very good. And we'll be posting more information about that. Lastly, I want to ask you, as a millennial, you are yourself. What do you feel that the millennials' role right now is in society? Because millennials, as I am, millennials are being blamed for many things right now that is particularly wrong in the world. They want millennials are the issue all the time. I don't agree, but what would you say millennials' role in society is,
Mhm.
as well as well, I'll let you answer that, and I'll come back now, Victor.
Mhm. I'd say the big one is the assumptions that are made about us. People assume, and they get us mixed up with the other generation behind us. Like people were talking about all those college students and stuff. It's on beaches spreading corona, and I'm like, and they're like those millennials, and I'm like, no, that's Generation Z. Millennials are working right now, trying to figure out how to pay student loans and all of this stuff. You need to back up. And I think too, it is the assumptions that are made about us. And what I wish other generations would recognize is they all went through their growing pains.
Yeah,
Why can't we be allowed the same?
yeah,
As a generation, why can't we be allowed that? So I think that's our biggest woe right now, the assumptions that are made about us.
yeah, yeah. That's good. Finally, there are people that are inspired by you, have been inspired by you, and I know there's many people that know you. My son is one who's inspired by you. And I feel like a good parent to know that he knows that I know you. But um, I, for those people who are also sitting in church,
Mhm.
not paying attention, and
Wait,
are, I
let me,
know,
let me, it
I
was
know, I ain't gonna put you out there. I
when I
know,
was writing. I was writing at work like through the week. On
I
Sundays,
know.
I was like,
I, I know. It had to sound. I had to make it sound dramatic. Uh, but for those who are at work or and maybe in the faith area, or maybe not in, but are at nonprofits or at different places where they can envision their dream, see their dream, but are just not like, I don't know if I can and I will. What would you say to all those people? I know that it's deeply embedded in you, but what would you say to those people who are listening right now tonight in our chat? You like, to tell, if you had to tell them and you had the megaphone right now to speak to all of them, what would you say?
Faith without works is dead. You got to do something. You got to do something. You got to take a step. You do one step, God will do 20 more. And I don't mean go quit your job and all that and turn your life. No, no, no. I mean, sometimes it's small steps. One thing that I did when I first got my job at New Horizon Church here in Jackson, I knew deep down in my heart, I was like, one day I want to be an author. I want to travel. And I prayed about it and I was like, what can I do, God, to show you that I'm taking steps of faith? So what did I do? I did something small. I went and bought a set of luggage. I did not have any luggage. I went and bought a set of luggage because I said one day I'm going to use it. And guess what? I used that luggage. Actually, I don't use it now because it got worn out. But I ended up using that luggage. Take a step of faith. And at least we see it in the Bible talk about faith the size of a mustard seed. All it takes is something small. Do something small to show God that you are in on this just as much as He is. He wants more for you, more than you want for yourself. He wants better for you than you want for yourself. So stop putting limits on God and take a step of faith. And I promise you, you make one step, He'll make 20.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of all of us millennials who are not on the beach spreading things, I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for showing us what faith steps look like, and showing us what blind faith rides like on a motorcycle.
Amen.
And we're really, really excited to see what your future is going to be and what that's going to look like. I'm excited about it just from the brief time that I've known you, to see what unprecedented favor you've been able to embrace and walk in. So I'm really, really excited to see what the next 5 years and 10 years looks like for you. So thank you for your time tonight. And I hope that all of you who are watching tonight, that you, maybe your dream is not writing, maybe it's not it, but whatever it is, make a step, do something. And I hope this has inspired you to do that tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Good night.
Hey everybody, it's Angie, and you guys may know me as the author of The Hate You Give and On the Come Up, but you may not know that I am a very proud alum of Belhaven University, and I have an awesome opportunity to tell you guys about. I'm so excited because Belhaven has a new opportunity for aspiring writers, the Angie Thomas Writer Scholarship. The Angie Thomas Writer Scholarship gives aspiring creative writing majors the opportunity to receive significant scholarships. One recipient will receive a full ride scholarship, which will cover tuition, room, and board for 4 years at Belhaven University. The Angie Thomas Writing Scholarship will help bright young writers who just need extra support to make their dreams come true. Visit gobelhaven.com/Angie to learn about the requirements and apply today. Applications are due by March 1st, and winners will be selected on April 1st. Learn more about Belhaven University at belhaven.edu.
Well, friends, I enjoyed spending time with you tonight, and I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Miss Angie Thomas. If you haven't followed her, make sure you follow her on all of her platforms. If you haven't gotten her books, make sure you get her material. If you haven't seen the movie, The Hate You Give, it's a perfect opportunity for you to go ahead and stream it, to do whatever you got to do to make sure you're connected on all ends. I want to thank you again for tuning in. Stay connected. Continue to follow on every way that you can make sure that you stay connected. I want you to know, once again, I am praying for you during this season. Let's continue to lift each other up. And let's make sure that we are just as much concerned about others as we want people to be concerned for us. Until next time, I will see you again, same time, same place, next week for another Sunday Night Chat. Good night.
Lives in you and me.